It's game time.
Tristan, can you read me a bedtime story?
Well, of course, my little man.
And can I get forehead kisses?
40 Winks is a game that was only released on the PS1. Or was it? The story of the N64 port of 40 Winks is an interesting one. It was released for the PS1 in November 1999, but the N64 version was cancelled, and its cancellation is definitely peculiar, as it seems as if the game was 100% complete at the time. Now, I say this because there are multiple magazines that had full guides and reviews of it. Magazines such as 64 Magazine, Computer and Video Games, and even Nintendo Power. In 2008, a beta of the game was leaked online, presumed to be a review copy sent to the press before the game's cancellation. Then, in 2019, Pico Interactive created a Kickstarter to fund the game's N64 release, and it was a success. Not only was the game now available digitally through Steam, but it is currently the last North American and PAL N64 release. Yes, the game has not been officially licensed by Nintendo, but it does work on all NTSC and PAL N64 consoles. Today, we'll not only be reviewing the game itself, but the quality of the items that came with the Kickstarter tier that I backed. The quality of the other items won't affect the final review score of the game, and I'll be reviewing them separately. So let's review the game first. 40 Winks focuses on brother and sister duo Ruff and Tumble saving 40 Winks. You see, the name of the title is in the game. You get it? Do you get it? From Nightcap. He'll yell at you to get off his dream lawn from his dream porch. He also has a teddy bear companion named Threadbear. I'm going to safely assume this is more of a Chucky situation rather than a Ted one, like a serial killer Build-A-Bear. Either way, these kids are getting murdered. The kids can save these Winks by going into different, scary worlds in their dreams. It's an open 3D environment a la Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. My first experience with 40 Winks was actually on a PS1 demo disc. Its visuals and name definitely made it stand out in my 7-year-old brain, but for some reason, I was never able to ask my parents to get it. I was able to play the PS1 version of 40 Winks a few years back, so I can make a few comparisons, although they aren't going to negatively affect the final score. The PS1 version had beautiful opening cutscenes, but some lackluster voiceover work. It's the 90s, so I'll excuse some of it being off, but I do want to give credit to Nightcap's actor because he is hamming it up, and I loved it. The N64 version has this. I can't necessarily blame GT Interactive since this is all that could be done on a cartridge at the time, so I'll give them points for innovation, but not a lot of points. Let's move on to Ruff and Tumble. Both of them are playable, and the game doesn't change dramatically based on who you choose, only with a particular power-up. A big difference between both versions is that this version has multiplayer. I think this makes fighting normal monsters a bit too easy, but it can help out with the boss fights. But when it comes to gameplay, well, first things first, it always feels like I'm sliding. There are certain power-ups you can obtain through the game, and I would understand if that would cause some changes to the physics, but no. The characters are always slippery. And look, I get it, it's raining, usually, but it feels like it doesn't matter what surface I'm on. If I need to be precise, I'm gonna die, or fall off a platform. Each level feels too linear, and there's a bit too much backtracking as well. Instead of allowing you to get 1 or 2 Winks in a level and move on, the game makes you collect every single one in the same playthrough. Doing this can seem tedious, especially when you can only advance in a level by collecting cogs. Honestly, describing it this way kinda sounds like some weird 40 Winks pyramid scheme. Look, I don't hate the Collectathon style format, but I prefer the Super Mario 64 method, which allows you to revisit a level later to experience new things within it. The game does do something interesting though, and I usually like when games do this, and actually does a bit of a genre shift. In one level, I actually have to chase a witch, and I respect their desire to do something different, but fuck this witch. This part of the game also has really bad motion controls. And I mean really bad. The creature designs are cute though, and definitely something that can spook a younger player, except for the first boss, which is a giant spider. See, that's a nope for me at any age. Look at this thing. No. No. I thought these kids were dreaming, but really they were just in Australia. The music isn't terrible, but also isn't memorable, at least within the context of the game and how much of it I played, but more on that later. All in all, if you're a collector, then I understand why you'd want this game, but if you're interested in getting it just to play it, then it isn't worth the price. $65 is a bit too steep. If these were mass-produced years ago and were on the second-hand market, say $15 at most, then I would recommend it. It is $13 on Steam, and you know what, I would definitely say that seems like a better deal. The saddest part about this is that none of this reflects poorly on Pico Interactive. They didn't create the game from scratch. They did fix a few glitches and added their logo to the start of the game, but it isn't their responsibility to make the game more fun. So I give this game 2.5 out of 5 cranky nightcaps. Now let's move on to the items that came with my order. I initially backed the Collector X64 tier, which meant that I bought 2 editions of the game and 2 Steam codes. One was a normal edition in box, and the other was a special edition of the game with a full color manual and a poster. For $155, that's iffy at best. And look, I'm fully aware that licensing a game, creating a box/box art, and printing full color manuals are not cheap, but splitting that down the middle, both games cost $77. You could have gotten the normal edition in box, labeled the N64 tier for $55 by itself, which I think is fair, gameplay aside. However, the stretch goals ended up making this more worthwhile by far. If you aren't familiar with Kickstarters, stretch goals incentivize people to continue backing the project even after it's been 100% funded. For example, a stretch goal could end up funding merchandise, another level/mode in the game, and even full voice acting. It's all extra content and nothing that was initially promised in the Kickstarter reward tiers. Due to how many stretch goals were met, I was able to receive a plushie based on the character Wakey Wakey, a brand new 40 Winks branded N64 controller, and a physical soundtrack. Also, a Pog! Which, I mean, okay! A cool thing to note about the soundtrack is that it's never been released. Also, remember that none of this was an added cost to my initial order, so for $155, I don't think that's a bad deal. I played the game with the controller to test it out, and sadly, you get what you paid for. Now, it is fully functional and looks amazing, but I'm worried about the thumbstick in the future. It makes this squeaky noise when I move it. Now, I have no problem with replacing it, but I am worried that the stick is soldered into the board since it's third party, and I don't solder. The buttons don't have a lot of travel, which is good, but they aren't that easy to click, so I might just need to break it in. There is a port on the back that allows you to use memory cards and rumble packs, although I was unable to test the reliability of either due to my memory card being faulty, even on my original controller, and I don't own a rumble pack, but it only comes into play during smash attacks anyway. The controller is not compatible with the transfer pack, but newer third-party controllers usually aren't. Initially, the controller was supposed to look like an original N64 controller, but plans changed when Nintendo trademarked the design a few years back. I don't dislike the Pelican design, all I care about is if it works, and while it passes that bar, I still worry about it standing the test of time. If you still want to get the controller, you can buy it directly from Pico's website for $50 while supplies last. It was never promoted as a Kickstarter exclusive, so I'm not really upset. Hell, I didn't even know if the stretch goal was going to be met in the first place. I mentioned not really being into the soundtrack before, so you might think that having a physical soundtrack is worthless, but it somehow managed to be quite the opposite. When listening to the CD by itself, the music is actually a lot of fun. It comes with 21 different tracks, and I can't wait to listen to them while getting work done around the house. Perhaps it's because the game isn't really the best, but when playing the game, the tracks just don't stand out. Not every track is a hit, mind you, but I'm loving Wakey Wakey Races, and Splash Splash City is pretty trippy. The Pog works as it should. The Wakey Wakey plushie doesn't have the best stitching, but it was free, so. And also, remember, a Kickstarter exclusive. My only problem is a lack of communication on the side of Pico. The plushie was initially stated to be of rough or tumble, which I wanted to get to review, but I would have given to my friend's kid since she likes stuffed animals. But then it changed to a vote halfway through, with Wakey Wakey being on the list along with other characters from the game. Wakey ended up winning, obviously, which I don't mind personally, but it really should have been stated from the get-go, especially when you have backers giving to the Kickstarter to get those stretch goals. Now we have a kid without a plushie, and a 27-year-old man who has no intention of giving this adorable plushie to her. Overall, with the amount of money I put into the Collector X64 tier, these extras definitely were worth it, but most weren't deal breakers, especially when looking at how much the game and the controller cost on Pico Interactive's website. But still, I am worried about how long these items are going to last. Except for you, Poggy. You're gonna make it. I believe in you. I give these items 3 out of 5 Pogs.
And can I get forehead kisses?
Well, anything for my special little guy.
Hey man, what's up?
Never call this number ever again.